Alrighty, guys, this is Trip Turlington. It's 2 for 1 time. 2 for 1. 2 dances for $25 at the table, or $55 for 2 dances in the VIP.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Passionate DJ Podcast. I'm your host, David Michael. This is the one and only Trip Turlington.
What up?
How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. It's just been a busy couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the studio, man. It's good to see you.
Right.
So you've had some fun at work and some fun at home, and it's just been one of those kind of moments where things happen all at once.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I know how that feels.
It does. It all just kind of converged, people may have picked up in the past that I work in IT, so, had a severe outage at work, and then on top of that, it was all happening on the same day that my wife was having some surgery, so, just trying to balance all of that, and we were like, well, shit.
But you got a new toy.
Yeah, I was going to say that, so now that everything is kind of leveling out, now I'm close to graduating with my undergrad. And so Gina authorized a family purchase. Thank you, Gina. And as a congratulatory, gift, she let me go and order the Native Instruments S49 Mark II, the complete control. But I was going to do it myself, and I wasn't even going to say anything about the thing, and just, I'll buy it later when I've saved up all my nickels, right? But in true Native Instruments fashion, hey, here's this super limited edition, blah, 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 blah. And that was all like, hook, line, and sinker. They got me.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so I got the blackout edition. Man. So it's all black keys. Yeah.
Like, I know, like, I don't know what it is. Like, just hearing that, I'm like, okay, they're black keys, like, whatever, right. Gimmicky. But, like, seeing it, man, it was so... Yeah, I don't know. I was murdered out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because it is. The whole thing is that matte, like all the other Native Instruments gear, it's, the matte finish everywhere else, but then, the FITAR bed keys and all that, and they're all black. And, I was the same way. I kept telling myself, like, it's not going to look the same as it does in all the press releases and all the photoshopped photos. Like, stop working yourself up. But at the same time, I was like, man, but it would look so sweet.
Ooh, maybe you could spend a week or two with it and then bring it over to the studio and we'll do a little video on it.
Oh, yeah,
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, because so far it's really slick. Like, so I'm an Ableton Live user. So what I was able to do just in the first night was, get it, install it, get it all registered and everything, and then download all of the other packs that come with it, and then go through Ableton Live and then get it all set up in the DAW for the MIDI in, MIDI out, and DAW control, because that's the other thing that's really slick about this thing is it doesn't just control complete control now. Like, you can actually, like, maneuver through Ableton with it too.
Oh, it's like a proper Ableton controller. Yeah.
So like, and there's like, so there's these 2 LCD screens on this thing, so you can actually pull up the VST and like go through presets and all that kind of stuff. But then you can hit another button and then it brings up your Ableton Live mixer, and then you can you can sit there and play with the controls in the mixer, and you don't even have to touch your laptop or a mouse or none of that.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
because that's what's always kind of been missing from that sort of like machine complete control kind of workflow, is like they're like, we know most of our customer base uses Ableton,
right?
But there was just no real like proper integration with all that stuff, even with like the Machine Studio behind you and this like all this setup in Complete 10. Like, you can hack it together sort of, but it's not really like, okay, that's controlling this now, then you got to select, it's controlling this now,
right?
Now it's like integrated, and
well, in the way
that's so appealing,
right? Especially because that's how I set up my Ableton templates, so being a working guy with kids, all of, and going to school, and just everything in life, like, when I sit down in my studio, I just want to sit down and either noodle around or write. Like, I just want to get to it. So I've created some pretty elaborate templates, and it's evolved quite a bit over the years. But that's what I was doing last night. Actually, was once I got everything installed, okay, and then figure out how to tweak it, and okay. So then I set up my entire template to include that unit. So now I can
so you do like housekeeping shit.
Oh yeah.
So do you think like a lot of times when I get new gear, like that's all the inspiration that I need to work on a new project or something? Like, so have you gotten to that stage yet, or is that next?
No, I
did want to play with it.
Yeah, I did a little bit last night. So I fired it up at first because I'm not a piano player. So that was the first thing my wife said was a 49. The 49 key. She goes, "That's big." Like I was like, it ain't the biggest one they make. But I did get the 49 because they didn't make the Mark II in the 25, because when you see the screens and the layout of the buttons and all that stuff, like, and the knobs, there's just not enough room.
It'd take that portability away.
Right. Or you would just make such a large 25 key that it defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went ahead and I did. I threw on what is it called? Serum makes it. You know which one I'm talking about? Cthulhu.
Cthulhu. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Silence.
No, Serum. Serum. Okay. Yeah, Serum is the VST, but I'm not a piano player, so I threw Cthulhu on there, and played around with the different. I don't know if you've ever played with that one. So. It's okay, haters. Send all hate mail to trip at. What Cthulhu is it's a VST, and you can map it to other VSTs. But the value in this thing is that it's got preset chord patterns so you can pick, your key and different pattern libraries and stuff like that, and then you literally just hit one key, another key, another key, another key, and it just plays a whole bunch of different chords. Then you can sit there and play with it until you find a chord progression you like.
So you probably say, like, now I want you to arpeggiate this, or now
Correct.
I want you to play this as a solid chord, or whatever.
And there's a bunch of things that do that. Actually, that Native Instruments Complete Control does that too.
Yeah, the keyboards have some built-in functionality.
Correct.
For that.
Yeah. And the really cool part,
send MIDI. Doing that.
And the really cool part about that is that they also have the light guide. So if you're trying to learn scales and chords and all of that kind of stuff, like, it will light up which keys that you should put your actual fingers on. So it acts as an educational tool too. But if all you're trying to do is just bang something out, Cthulhu is really good at it. And then once you find something that you like, and then you put, so like if it's C, D, E, F is the 4 keys that you have to push to get the chord progression you like out of Cthulhu, then you just hit export, and then it will actually generate the MIDI notes for all of those chords.
Gotcha.
So now you've actually got that, and then you can copy and paste that wherever you need. Yeah,
arrange.
Exactly.
Cool.
I've got a few tools like that, Cthulhu, and then I use all the stuff from Mixed In Key now.
I was going to say, was it Captain Chords?
Captain everything.
I feel like they came out with a new.
They came out with a bunch of Captain Chords, Captain Deep, Captain Melody, or something, and then now they've got Captain Rhythm that just came out. I just got the email the other day. Yeah, from Yakov.
I should look that up. But do they sell them in packages, or is it kind of like a DLC microtransaction model, or how does that?
I'm not sure. Full disclosure, I bought Odyssey, and when I bought Mixed In Key, and then after we did an interview with them, then they upgraded my license, and I haven't paid for anything since. Okay. So thank you, Mixed In Key.
Hey.
So I do use their tool as well. So all of that to say, yes, last night I put Cthulhu on just so I could play, with chords that actually sound decent together.
Yeah.
I think I even sent you a text and said, man, having all these keys in front of me, now I really want to learn how to actually play. Like I can, noodle around and get, some chords, and I've been doing this long enough that I can do that, but I don't having 49 keys in front of me instead of, because practically the entire time I've ever messed with music, I've never had anything bigger than 25 keys. That's all I need to bang out an idea.
That's a single hand kind of instrument. Yeah.
But, so now having that in front of me, now it's like, oh. So, so far I love it.
It sounds awesome, man. I hope that you can find some time to mess with all that stuff.
I will. I will be making time now.
Yeah, I was gonna say. You've been so busy, and I know how it feels to like get a new thing, and then like life happens, and you're like, okay, like I can't justify playing with my new thing, but also can't think about anything else. It's like, your brain starts going crazy, and then, a week later, you're like, Am I allowed to touch it now?
Right.
There's like a weird guilt thing or something.
No doubt. And my wife, the comedian. So last night, once we got the kid in bed, and then I'm going and trying to get everything else around the house picked up. Okay, this or that. Now I can just dedicate some time. I'm going to play with this, and then. She came into the kitchen just as I was finishing up the dishes, and she was all like, "So I think there's like a Dateline on, or I think there's something. We haven't seen that much of each other the last couple of weeks. Would you like to sit and watch a show with me or something?" And I was all like, so I knew what she was doing, so I turned it back around her. Yeah, I would love to. And then she looks back in the studio, looks at me.
That's a good woman.
Right. Well, and the funny part is, shout out to Jack Sheets, Mr. Shifter. He had put up a post earlier about some synth that he picked up, and that was the first thing my wife said. She was like, she tagged me and she says no, and I was like, It only takes one sometimes. You buy one and it's like, wow, I mean, it really could use like a complimentary bluckety bluck whatever.
Well, Jack knows that especially.
Oh yeah. Well, and I picked it up from a musician's friend. I was telling you before the show, I've got a friend that works there, and she got me a pretty decent deal. So I was like, of course I'm going to jump on that. But then it turned around, and then I earned so much in backstage bucks pass or backstage pass bucks or something like that. So like in like 45 days, that money drops into my account, and then I can spend it just like cash. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, you guys are evil. Like, because I won't have that thing paid off yet, but I'm going to go and spend more money now.
It's kind of funny the parallels here though, because your wife played a role in getting you Native Instruments gear, and my wife played a role in getting this niche because I woke up from a nap and this stuff had arrived,
Nice.
And I was like, what?
I remember that.
What?
What?
Like, you said you wanted it, and I was like, damn baller. Okay. Right. It's like I was thinking I was like save up for 6 months or something, but that was cool.
Yeah, for sure. And yours is the 88 or 81?
It's the 61.
Yeah. Because we had
Studio and Kontrol S61.
Yeah, because we had the S88 in Dayton Studios.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Man. Yeah. See, those
took up most of the desk, but
doesn't it have like weighted keys and stuff too, or semi-weighted, or?
The semi-weighted FITAR bed. But yeah.
Man, that's that was good stuff. But it's kind of like, so this one's the Mark 1 release, but the Machine Studio had a lot of the stuff that made it into the like Mark II stuff in it. So kind of having the combination of the two, I've been able to kind of have that functionality. But now they're adding all the cool new stuff and the DAW integration. I'm like, I'm like, I have literally no reason to upgrade this stuff like that.
I did the same thing.
It works fine. I hardly have really been able to touch it lately. So it's like, but that's kind of part of it for me, is like what I hinted to earlier, is like when I get a new thing,
then all of a sudden
that's enough motivation to like get me diving into it, and I feel like I'm rejuvenating the hobby a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's been a struggle for me for
new gear
production for years. I've been talking it on the show for years. Right.
New gear and basement floods, right?
In basement. Yes, basement floods. Oh God.
That was quintessential there. Basement's flooding. I'm gonna sit down and play the piano.
Yep. Just like water running under my feet.
Right.
Now, so for those who don't know, I shared a video of me just playing the piano when a lot of the stuff that's in the studio, for those of you watching the YouTube version, used to be in my basement, which flooded. Most of this stuff survived, obviously, but the flooring was trashed and everything. And I just walked in, and I'd spent years slowly building this room, and I just like,
Yep.
What do you do?
Right.
So I sat down and I just started playing nothing in particular, just improv, and I recorded it and posted it to Facebook, like trying to make something out of it, But,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so
get it where you can.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm the same way. A lot of inspiration can come to me just by having something flashy and new in front of me, so that I can kind of play with it. But that's a hard thing to do on a regular basis,
right.
Because, I mean, it's just
kind of
pure,
feeding the beast there.
Right? And it's just pure cost prohibitive. If I had to buy a toy every time I got or that I lost motivation or lost inspiration, geez, I'd be broke.
Yeah.
But the good part is this stuff has really good resellability. So like I've already sold my S25. And put that towards, the purchase of this thing. I've got a couple of other pieces that I don't ever touch anymore, so I can get rid of those, and just making sure that I'm keeping my studio as tidy as possible, trying not to be a pack rat, and but then finding that inspiration in something new.
Yeah. So I'm finding it a little frustrating because I've kind of had this problem for years with production, but it's kind of creeping into DJing.
Oh yeah, big
now.
time.
This
big time.
Not able to find the time.
Yep.
Thing.
Yeah. For me, I mean, it's the exact same story, except for I don't have anything new to play with. But like, I always stare at my wish list. The Nexus setup, or even now I'm taking bigger and bigger looks at bigger and longer looks at the Denon Prime stuff. Only and not because I think they're going to make everybody change their rider, blah blah blah. None of the marketing hype, but just because feature for feature, and in terms of quality, it's not just comparable, but it surpasses in functionality. So if you can get everything that you get out of a Nexus setup plus save some money and get more stuff that the Nexus setup doesn't do, then it does make me take a longer look at it. Ultimately, I'm a Pioneer fanboy, though. So, like, I'm not a fanboy of their marketing model, but when it comes down to it, like, if I had that kind of money to spend on an all-new DJ setup, I probably would go Nexus 2. But I don't. So what my studio at home, I've got the SZ, the original Gen 1, and a couple of Technic 1200 Mark IIs that I've heavily modified, customized. But that's my setup. The biggest change that I've made lately in the last 6 months to a year is I bought a full license of Rekordbox, because Rekordbox would work with my SZ, but it doesn't work outside on anybody else's gear because I didn't own the license. I only owned the license that went with my SZ.
And was it the Oakenfold show? Did it have a role in you kind of wanting to get more Rekordboxy? Am I remembering that correctly, or am I making that up?
Kind of. I had been wanting to go more Rekordbox for a while, only because it's more ubiquitous, right? I can go to almost any gig, and there's Pioneer gear there. Like, unless, and if not, then somebody will say, hey, you need to bring your own stuff, or whatever. And so, I mean, I ended up selling my SL1, my SL3. Like, I've sold all of my Serato stuff except for the SZ, and I don't ever take that. That has never left my studio. Yeah. So if the only place that I use Serato is at home, but everywhere else I can use Rekordbox, then what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like, why haven't I already made that switch? And again, Jack, Mr. Shifter, he and I, he made the jump long before I did, and I kept pining over it, and it's like, it's $100 and however many dollars without DVS, so like, DVS is extra, so that was always a prohibitive thing for me too, and it was just like, for the half a dozen gigs that I play, like per year, like Not so much.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I want to get into playing again more often to justify that cost. But even DVS, it's just something that I do at home now. Nobody ever has techniques at a gig anymore.
Yep.
So for me, it's just I finally did make that switch and was able to, okay, I'm all in on Rekordbox now. Now everything's on my thumb drives, and I just go and, it just works.
I'm having similar kind of feelings about Tractor for the same exact reasons. Like, I'm only really using Tractor here now, right. Whereas that wasn't always the case before. Like, it used to be that I was always bringing whatever I was playing on to the gig.
Right.
And now it's to the point where I'm not always doing that. It's usually like, it's actually way easier to just show up with thumb drives or whatever. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I'm kind of a Tractor fanboy. I like Tractor, and it's part of the experience for me is using what I like and all that kind of stuff. And not that I dislike Rekordbox by any means, but I'm like, okay, Tractor makes sense if I start pursuing a slightly different direction, like I've thought about, where I'm like incorporating some more live elements. Maybe I'm like Ableton Link synchronizing it to my machine stuff, or going a little more live direction, adding some keys and whatever to it.
Side note, that's actually pretty cool. I've done a little bit of that stuff at home.
I've played with it.
Yeah. So, pretty cool stuff.
I've not really tried to perform with it.
Oh, no.
But
no, just playing at home.
Enough to be like, how easy is this really? Oh, that easy. Like, it just started working, right? So I'm like, okay, then if it does that, and I'm actually bringing a rig, like I'm bringing a keyboard and a machine studio and a mixer or something like that, then I'm going to stick with Tractor because it's great for nerdy shit like that.
Right.
But for the regular DJ gig, it's just kind of a hassle. So now it's like what I end up doing is going into my Tractor stuff that I play at home, and then I export whatever playlist and take that music out, put it in a Rekordbox, and bring that so that I don't risk leaving my $2,000 laptop at the gig or something.
Right.
And so
that's the other side of it too, is that one of the things that I was looking at was like the XDJ, is it RX2 or the one that's all standalone. Now I was looking at that too, because I mean, thankfully, finally, things are starting to move to those all-in-one units, and I think a bunch of us have been waiting for that for a long time. But then again, if it's going to be a Pioneer setup, it's all going to be in Rekordbox. There's virtually no difference between that and then my SD with my MacBook. I prepare it, and then I take the thumb drive with me, because I'm not going to take that thing out to a gig.
Yeah. So
if they've already got Pioneer gear. So it's
why spend yourself into a problem where you are losing 2 channels and so that's the thing. Like, feature for feature, it seems like a downgrade when you come from the world of, like, even something for me, it was like Kontrol S8, or even before that, Kontrol S4.
Right.
Okay, Kontrol S4 was like what, $500 or something,
roughly,
whatever it was when it came out, and I used that for a million years, and I could do like perfect looping every time without even thinking about it. I didn't even like do any track prep. I just trusted that it was going to work because it did. Right? Like, and like the effects were great, and I liked everything about it, and it was 4 channels, and then they added remix decks and stems and all that stuff, and they gave functionality to the older controllers to do that stuff.
Right.
And so then I look at something like the RX2, which is great, but I'm like, for me, it doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that? It's like doubling, tripling my price to limit myself.
Right. So hardware manufacturers, we would love free gear to review.
Please change our mind.
Right.
And this comes from, one of our most popular hardware review video on YouTube now is the RX2, and it's very well received. Everybody, they love it, and people are getting on there to comment on that video to say that they love that thing. They already have it, so I mean, they're not like expecting me to sell it to them.
Oh yeah, no.
So I mean, it's great. It's just for me, when I look at things, like, it's just like when you buy a car, right? Like, okay, this might be a better car in this way or that way, or more practical for this situation or that situation, but if you show me a $2,000 car versus a $20,000 car that has less features, I got to think about that.
Yeah, exactly. And so all of that, to go back to, motivation in DJing. Life happens, and we've covered in the past. We've got some episodes out there where we talk about busy DJs with day jobs and how do you make time and how and all of that kind of stuff. But I think this is an interesting time to kind of talk about inspiration and motivation and the loss of it, because it's been a very interesting couple of years for me, so.
Okay. Can you hold that thought really quick?
Sure.
This is right about the halfway mark, so this would be a great time to mention Patreon, and then we can jump straight into that.
Cool.
Because Patreon is how you can support the Passionate DJ podcast. If you love what we're doing here, you can get access to all our great bonus content, and we've been having a lot of meetings about what kind of additional bonus content we're going to be adding for patrons out there. Those of you who are in there seem to love it, and we get a lot of encouragement from you guys, and so we want to share that with more people. So hit up patreon.com/passionate DJ and get access to, like I said, it's like the bonus segments, extra interviews, side conversations, deleted scenes.
Fart noises and dick jokes.
Right. Yeah, all this. We're actually really raunchy and ridiculous all the time. We just save that for after party. So
we do?
Yeah.
Oh.
You didn't realize that was getting published.
Oh, yeah. Oops.
Also, check out our merch, passionateddj.com/merch. You can get, you can't get the shirt that Tripp's wearing. You can get a variant of this one. This one only comes out every once in a while for Halloween.
Blackout.
That's the blackout edition. Those of you listening on the radio audience, Tripp has the classic logo. He's rocking it today. Mm-hmm. The horizontal Passionate DJ logo. You can get those in, I think, white on black and black on white, and a couple different variants there. We also have the Deep Houses for Lovers and the Coexist shirt. You can check that out. DJ Access wore that on his interview a couple of shows back. So those are some ways you can support the Passionate DJ podcast if you love what we're doing.
Yep.
So I'm sorry I cut you off.
No.
What was the last thing that you said?
So just saying that, like, this is an interesting time for me. That I'm like, it's been an interesting couple of years, period. I mean, we've talked about a couple of things that have happened with me over that time, but like especially it feels like over the last year, I'm really hitting school hard to try to finish that. My youngest daughter is 3.5. My oldest daughter is 17, and the one in between them is 14. So it's like, with all of life, right there, it has been increasingly hard to make sure that I can keep my hands on stuff, and that's production and DJing. But like we said before, at least with the production, every so often, if I buy a new toy there, then okay, that at least gets me going again, and gets some more juices flowing. With DJing though, it has to be a very deliberate effort, because there's nothing out there that I feel the juice is worth the squeeze. I don't want to spend. I don't have the money to spend on a Nexus 2 setup, which is what I want. But there's nothing else out there that I feel will effectively give me anything that replaces my SZ turntables and laptop. So if there's nothing out there that I can justify buying, then it can be increasingly hard to take the dust cover off and actually fire that stuff up.
So there's no real Ferrari for you, or the Ferrari might be the Nexus setup.
Right. So, what I find normally happens is it's my 3-year-old. She'll see me, I'll be in the studio, and if I'm in there sometimes, and this is as a side note from a philosophical side aspect, I'm probably screwing myself in terms of like motivation and getting creative juices flowing, and being in a safe, creative space, because my studio also doubles as my office. So, work laptop, my MacBook doubles as, DJ, production studio, and, work at school and all that stuff. So, so a lot of times she'll see me in there, and I'm actually doing homework, or I'm actually working, but I've got a micro Korg, and it's got these itty bitty tiny little keys, and I bought it specifically because of the little keys. And it's got a really nasty respace like preset already in it. But Ellie can come in, my 3-year-old, and she's got, you know, little 3-year-old fingers, and so she can come up there, and I've got it on a stand right next to my desk, and she comes up, you know, so she has a blast with it. Put the vocoder on, and she knows to, you know, talk into it as she's pushing the buttons. Okay. Oh yeah, she's getting into it. But, you know, she's also 3, so that lasts all of, I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes. And then bing, and she turns around, and then she wants to go and she wants to play music, because that is actual, like, you know, there's music involved, and it gets loud, and it's fun, and there's a bunch of blinking lights, and she can play with the platters and all of that stuff.
Right.
So
same reason we all got into it.
right. So, you know, I'll go get a step stool or whatever, pull it up to it, and let her stand up there and just bang away on it. But then, like, you know, then inside my own head, I'll be all like, you know, that's not why all of this stuff is here. Like, that's a good thing. I want to encourage that for her, but this is my stuff. Like, why am I not playing with it? And everything I keep coming back to is just, I don't have the time. But then when I do have the time, I'm either exhausted, or I'm distracted, or I'm just not feeling that motivation or inspiration. But the craziest part, and people say it, and it sounds absolutely ridiculous, and it just doesn't make any sense until you are in that headspace, but the only way you can fix it is to just do it. Like that, like, there have been, I'd say in the last 6 months, I can count on one hand, thinking 3 times. Actually, let's call it a year. Because one time I actually fired up Facebook Live. Like, you know, I don't have any of the attachments. My audio sounded like shit. You know, it just was what it was. But I just, you know, I fired stuff up and went at it. But yeah, 3 to 5 times in the last year. And as daunting as it felt, you know, coming up to it, turning everything on, taking the dust cover off, and, you know, it just even picking the first track. Like, it was just, you know, I haven't touched this stuff in forever. I'm not going to sound good. I'm not going to feel it, like, you know, whatever. Yeah. And just trying to get to that space where, okay, once the first track is on, get through the first mix, and then, okay, well, let's see how the next mix goes, and so on and so forth. And the craziest part is that, like, I'm very particular about how I mix. You know, I'm very much like Tony and some others out there, where I really like seamless mixing. Mm-hmm. I'm not the best at it. Like, I'm not saying that you can listen to my mixes and you don't know when one song ends and the other starts, but there's some aspects to that. There's a particular smoothing that that a blending style that I have. And if you don't know your tracks, that's a very hard thing to pull off.
Right.
So, what I have found is that, like, once I'm a couple of tracks in, and hey, this is just like riding a bike, like, and then I start feeling it and get my fat rolls going, like, because, you know, like, I'm over 40 now and weight doesn't come off like it used to, but yeah, you know, just kind of getting it going, and then all of a sudden I find myself in that headspace, and then next thing I know, an hour or an hour and a half has passed by.
That's a good point.
But, and then I sit there and I kick myself in the ass, like, I should have recorded that.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
So,
because I'm the same way. Like, even with, sometimes what I'll do is, like, since I do have the same problem where I work in the same area that I'm creative.
Yeah.
But, so that distracts me from both things.
Right.
So, like, sometimes I'll take a break and I'll just be like, I'm gonna put, like, a record on. I'm just gonna pick something random and get some use out of these damn turntables, right? And I'll slap a record on, and then I'll be like, oh man, I remember this track. This is a great track. And then I'll pick out another one. Like, I'll just beat match this one real quick just for fun. Like, I don't even get my headphones out. I just, like, turn it up a little and listen and beat match it. And then I'm like, all right, maybe I got half an hour. And, like, I find myself mixing. You know what I mean? And it's like, shit, that's all I needed to do was just decide to do it.
Right.
Instead of sitting here bitching about how I never have time to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which feels true, but well, I mean, I'm not just, like, trying to make excuses for not doing it, but you know, and
that's the hard thing for me, because I mean, or for you know, a lot of people, I'm sure, Sorry, I keep hitting the thing and act like I've never done this before. So, but for me, it's like there is no one in the world that can look at my schedule and say that is not a true statement. That I just don't have a plethora of time to devote to this stuff. And DJing aside, even in my production life, like in the amount of time that I can find the time to do some stuff, what I end up with is 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 loops. It's all that, endless loop syndrome where I get a good loop and I feel like that's going to be a great idea. I'll come back to it. But then when I come back, a couple nights later or, 2 weeks later or 2 months later, it's okay, but I'm not feeling that anymore. So then I start the next one.
Gotcha.
And there's a whole psychology behind that. There's a bunch of like courseware. There's a bunch of groups. I've mentioned them on the show before. Warp Academy, Academy.fm, Cymatics, Illgates. There's a whole bunch of people out there who dedicate part of their career to helping producers overcome challenges like that. And they have all broken it down into like a science. Like once you've got a loop or once you've got that first track on, then that's really all it is it's, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. And just, okay, that's what I'm doing. And then you just do it. For the production side, it's, okay, I've got a loop. Well, now let's turn it into a song. So instead of an 8-bar loop, you just literally take it and copy it for 6 minutes and then go back through and then refine it down. And then once you see a structure, then it changes your mentality, because once you see that structure, oh, well, this is an intro. I don't need this, or this. And then, oh, this is the build up. I don't need all of these things, but I am going to need this riser, breakdown and drops and all that stuff. Like you start thinking about it in terms of a song, not a loop.
Right.
So going back to DJing though, same kind of concept. Like, it's one of those things where I'm thinking, man, the concept of recording a mix is so freaking daunting. And then because I put so much I don't just grab 10, 12, 15 tracks and then just start mixing. Like if I'm going to put out a mix, if I'm going to put out a mix, it's not because I just hit record. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Because there are lots of people who do it and they come out great, and that's how some people just flow. That's not my flow. When I play a show, there's a little bit of pre-work, there's a little bit of, mental, preparation and stuff that goes into it. But for the most part, once I'm up on a stage, aside from maybe a mix or two, I'm pretty much winging it out of some selected crates, for the night. But if I'm going to put out a mix and I'm going to put my name on it and I'm going to say, I recorded this at this time of my life and career, and I'm putting it out for a demo purpose. So if, by chance a Tony DeSero or, any large promoter is going to hear that, this is going to be representative of who I am on their decks.
Right.
And, so I don't take stuff like that very lightly. And then as an artist, I like to think about stuff, like what's a theme, even if it's the most subtle, ridiculous theme that nobody else is going to pick up on at all.
Yeah. No, I totally get it, because it gives you like a framework to build around. Like it gives the mix a sense of purpose while you're creating it.
Right.
So I've done it just having a focus. Like I'm going to create a mix that blah blah blah. Okay, and then I can do that.
Right.
And that's one thing is that I've said before. I think this is again a blessing and a curse, is that when I'm feeling this way, a lot of times what I do is I'm like, I need a project. Like I'm not just gonna DJ more. I need to create a blah 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 which blah blah blah. Like I need to play at this place and this place, or I need to create a mix, or I need to create a series or something. I have some focus, right?
Right.
So, but then me saying that is also kind of like giving myself permission to continue not doing the little shit in between, right?
Exactly. Well, because that's the hardest thing for me, is that I think about things like, like the Oakenfold show. Like I look at my equipment and I psych myself out, because I'll tell myself I should not be just firing it up to play around. If I'm going to fire that thing up, I need to go and record that mix because people are asking for it.
Right.
But if I don't have the time, energy, or I'm not in the mental space to go back through my history and put everything in order and then run through it a couple of times to make sure that I do it right, or do it as close to live show as it was, then that's just too much work.
Yeah.
And it's so then I psych myself out. If that's too much work, but I can't not do that, then you can't turn it on and just play a few tracks either.
Right.
Like, it's just one of those things where, like, I know I'm totally in my own head, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that does that.
No,
because I'm sure there's other people out there going, "What in the is he talking about? Just turn it on and play."
Right. Yeah, I don't know if it's like a weird form of anxiety or what it is, but it's definitely a hold up, and I know that we're not the only ones, because over here you'll see there's a stack of vinyl records here.
Oh, nice.
These are ones that our friend Tommy from the Bedrock episode.
Yeah, I see Vinyl Groover already.
Yeah.
Okay.
He picked these out because he's working on a mix. I talked him into it.
Oh, nice.
Because he's kind of the same way, except for he doesn't like immerse himself in DJ culture every week like we do.
Right.
So, but I know that it does something for him, right? And so he was over the last time, and I'm like, buddy, I've got the mixer, I've got the audio mixer to record the output, I've got the cameras, I've got the lighting, and I've got text and all of your records from 15 years ago.
Right.
Like, you want to record something, and we'll just see if you like it. It's like, I've even got a channel to put it on.
Right.
It's like, whatever you want. Like, let's put something together.
Right.
And he was like, I think I will. And so he started grabbing a stack, and he's going to come over and practice, and
that's awesome.
Put some stuff together.
I was going to say, because you've been on him for a while to do this.
I have, and I have no right to be, because I'm in the same predicament, really.
Right.
But so that kind of leads me into it. It's like, okay, the difference is that I have created a situation for myself where I get to be surrounded in DJ stuff and talk about it all the time and research it all the time, and I know way more than I ever did about it after doing this show for several years. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's cool because I'm involved in it all the time. But so if I'm sitting in a room and it's off camera, I know they can't see it, but on that whiteboard over there is a bunch of shit I got to do.
Oh, right.
Right. There's a mind map that says passionate DJ, and it just branches out into a billion different directions.
Yep.
And that's not even the to-do list. That's like just getting my mind organized so I can create the to-do lists that will follow.
Right.
So I look at something like that, and it's like, okay, if I'm going to do DJ related stuff, should I go play some records, or should I create a piece of content about DJing?
Right.
Which is what I also like doing. And it's like, okay, I feel like I'm kind of like constantly behind on, like the content creation thing is brutal. Like if you've never tried to be, a YouTuber or something like that, I mean, YouTube thrives on constant delivery of content.
Yeah.
You just got to keep spitting it out there, and it's got to be great.
Well,
and
yeah,
so
that's the only.
It's brutal.
I fully believe that's the only way that we grew as much as we did organically was by really locking ourselves down and doing weekly. I almost said deployments, but I mean that's essentially what it is. Right? But by releasing weekly content like that, keeps everybody engaged and involved. But to that point, I mean, since I have taken, kind of a step back, I don't know if our more seasoned veteran listeners have noticed or whatnot. I've received a couple of messages, so I miss you guys too. But since doing that, like I know that how much all of that actually entails. So yeah, it's not a it's not for the faint of heart, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's
because it can become all-consuming, and no matter how much you love something, it's a very different thing to just DJ every week because you love it, and then to talk about it and then try to, make it your thing, like, and build a business around it and build a brand around it and all of that.
That's the key right there, because like I also don't really want to complain about it.
Right. right.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, poor David and his first world problems. He's crying over his YouTube channel and his expensive DJ gear.
Yeah, it's a very millennial problem.
Yeah, so it's like, it's not like I hate doing it. Like, I love this shit. Like, it's
but it is.
But there's
work.
a guilt factor when I stop doing it.
Right.
And then it becomes close to an obsession, and then it becomes hard to, then that's where the guilt comes in. It's like, oh, I feel guilty for not spending time with my wife, or not guilty for working on my other business, or for not spending time at the decks, and living in guilt sucks.
Oh yeah. And I because we know each other so well, I know that Stacy is very much like Gina in that they at least understand that about us. And
absolutely.
You got to have that creative space, like when Gina and I first moved in together, and okay, so this room right here will be my studio, right? Wait, what? But it wasn't much of a conversation. It was, oh yeah, he's going to need that space, to do that thing.
I said, I need a room and a garage.
Right? You can have the rest of the house.
Do whatever you want to the rest. It was exactly what I said. So, I need a place for my car, place for my toys.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, but so I think for me, like that's the big thing. In lieu of having an unlimited bank account that I can just go buy any and every toy to to trigger some sort of inspiration or motivation. That's the big thing, is that having that support from my family and from friends to keep pushing me, even though I may just not have the time to devote like I would like to, but at least having that constant, hey, maybe you should go do that, or maybe you should play around a little bit. It doesn't have to be about this thing that you have preordained or pigeoned your hole with, like.
That's almost a throwback at this point.
Right?
That's been a while since you said that.
Exactly. Callbacks, man. Gotta do them. It's a classic comedian move.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, but that you've kind of just wrapped your own mind around, and if you hold on to those things, it's like an anchor.
Yeah.
And if the anchor is down, the ship doesn't go anywhere. So it's trying to find and identify, why is it that I'm not doing that thing? And if that reason is a real reason, then okay. Like, what can I do to overcome that challenge? Otherwise, I need to be more cognizant for myself and just say, just stop it. Just, okay, if you're not feeling that thing, then you're not feeling that thing. There's not people dying in third world countries, because you're not making this mix. You as a creative person, as an artist, if you try to force the whole thing through perfection in your own mind, it's not ever going to be what you wanted it to be, and you're not going to feel it, and it's going to be a painful process. Whereas if you can get yourself out of that mind space and just approach it and just see what happens, force yourself to at least turn it on and play with it. If you're still not feeling it after a track or two, okay, great, you're not feeling it. But if you do, then now you're getting those things going again, and then you start getting more ideas and all of that stuff. So
I tell you, my problem definitely with, as far as like the finding the time thing, is overcommitment. Is my problem. I straight up, like,
you think? Wish you guys could see this thing.
Yeah. Well, see, so the whiteboard you're looking at is split in two, and on the right side is Passionate DJ. On the left is Dayton Home Team, which is our realty company. So Dayton Home Team, if you're looking to buy or sell in Ohio, but that's a shameless plug.
Right.
So it's divided into two now.
And it's what, 30 by 30?
Yeah. It's pretty big. And then, like, before this was all drawn on there, it was divided into like 5 or 6 different projects that I had. It wasn't a mind map like that, but I had like columns of, here's what I need to do for this, and here's what I need to do for this.
Like a Kanban type of thing.
Yeah. And I, just looking at it, it's like, holy shit, I just do too much stuff. Like, It's more than one person can do. And
Right.
so what I'm doing right now, then what started that whole mind mapping process for me is I need to see what all I'm responsible for doing or making happen, and then start time blocking it.
Right.
So that I'm committing some set amount of hard hours to each of these projects, and then I know when it's okay to turn them off. I don't have to turn it off.
Right.
But just because for me the problem isn't that like I only want to work set hours and then stop. It's that I want to feel okay when I do.
Right.
I want to be able to go play Call of Duty and not worry about it or something. You know what I mean? So, so I'm in the middle of that right now.
Yeah. And one thing about somebody like yourself that it has the ability to make your schedule. So like even if I wasn't at school or wasn't in school anymore, or any of the other number of things, but like just working an 8 to 5, traditional career type of thing, some of my best ideas are coming to me like right as I'm hitting that monster at like 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Or like even more bizarre, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, where like before, like as I'm getting my first cup of coffee, the coffee machine makes a weird noise, and I'm like, oh yeah,
I think there's something there.
Yeah, so it's just that's probably one of the more frustrating things for me is that when I get all my best ideas, I'm otherwise allocated, and by the time I can get in front of the keys or in front of the decks, then it's like, well, crap, it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So I might have an hour of true decompression time that I can put into this, but like I'm so exhausted that no, I'm probably just going to go to bed. Or I fall asleep at my desk. That has happened.
I don't think I ever did that. I did back when I was doing the more traditional 8 to 5 type thing. Mm-hmm. Found myself taking car naps.
At lunchtime?
Because, you got to realize that Passionate DJ was being conceptualized while I still had a job. My other business, my retail business, was also being started at the end of that job. And so the only way you can do that is sleep less.
Right.
That's just the only way it works.
I think there's a song about that. Ain't no rest for the wicked.
That's right. So I found my nap at lunchtime. I did have my my old Firebird that I had before my current toy out there, but it had T-tops, and so a spring day like today, I would just take the tops off and just
drool on yourself.
Yeah. Catch some flies. Well, I think that it seems silly to me, like when I really think about it, that we spend, or at least that I spend so much time like wondering why I'm not spending more time doing DJ stuff. Like when I live in this room basically.
Right.
And for us to all be doing that seems silly to me. So I feel like we should be like doing that more and like getting together and like helping each other with this problem.
Yep, agreed.
You and me, and also Mo and Tony, and kind of our extended network, and just getting people over here to do that, because like it doesn't have to be for any reason other than to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But we could also record some cool stuff, and I told Tommy, I said, if you're okay with it, I'll set up all the cameras, I'll take cool shots, I'll edit you together, cool, like we're making a promo, but we'll just do it because it's like reliving your glory days or whatever you want to do. You know? And he's like, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, we could always hit the local strip club and just have a bunch of girls, do like a booby boiler room or something. Like
there you go. Wouldn't be the first time.
Right.
I mean,
I didn't think we were allowed to talk about that one.
Anyway, now you know what after party is. All right. I guess we can wrap up there. That's a pretty good ending.
I think so.
Thanks for hanging out, man.
No, thanks for having me back.
You're welcome to hang as long as you want, and, mix some tunes if you want. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week. This has been the Passionate DJ Podcast. Keep on spinning.
Easy.
Middle of the night.